He says the initial podcast of yours was a bit long.
Oh, the one the other night?
Yes.
Yeah, that was a super long podcast. I don't know. I mean, that was yeah. Well, I mean, you could yeah. I don't know. Robbie's one of those guys that listen to the whole 2.5 hours though. I'd put him up there as like one of those sick puppies, listening to the 2.5 hour podcast, taking notes. So Rob was certainly one of the three listeners.
So what have you learned from this summer session?
I think we got a chance to be really good. Today wasn't our best day, but you look at the summer as a whole. We've got incredible depth. We're playing obviously today. KT fell and hurt himself the other day. Dion's out with as a meniscus, had surgery this morning, minor surgery, be out 6 to 8 weeks. Those are two guys that right now project as two of our better players. Two of our rotational guys, and so even without them, you can see. The athleticism, the depth, the ability, I think, to play the way we wanted, to be much more aggressive defensively, play faster offensively. There's a lot of weapons, a lot of places to go with the basketball. We have a lot of versatility with how we can play. We can play with multiple bigs in the same lineup. We can play with one big with 4 perimeter players. And we've played a lot with 5 guards where we play Amari at the 5, and you can play lineups where every guard is 6'5" or bigger and play with 5 guards and switch everything. And those lineups have been really good. They've been, forcing a ton of turnovers. So we're trying to collect as much data as possible. I think we're versatile. I think we're athletic. I think we're deep. I think we have good skill level. There's a lot of things we got to clear to become a really good team, a great team eventually. But the initial impressions leaving the summer are we have a lot. We have all the tools to become a great team now. Again, a lot of work to do to between now and then. We're not even a good team at the moment, but we have the tools and the character and the depth to become a really good basketball team.
I know data was one of the big things of this session, to work on different combinations and see how people. So do you have are there a lot of numbers to now crunch?
Yeah, I mean we're close to I think going into today we were a little over 1,800 possessions of live play this summer. So that's like 27, 28 games worth of data to crunch, and we can certainly extrapolate what lineups are working, who's playing well with who. You're looking at net rating, looking at offensive rating, defensive rating. What lineups work well together? What does it look like when Robbie and Paul are on the floor together? What does it look like? What are our strengths there? What are our strengths? We just play with 1 big and 4 guards. What are our strengths and things we do well when we have the 5 guards on the floor and we're not playing with any big out there? So I think there's a lot of ways to go. I do think part of our struggles last year, we were 11-7 in the league, but if you look at it overall, we were 15th in most turnovers. We were 15th in forcing turnovers. We were 14th in offensive rebounding. We were terrible at the math of the game, and I think we're going to be much better in those areas. I feel like we're going to be able to be much more aggressive defensively. We're going to be able to rotate guys in. I expect that we'll be able to play on a regular basis, somewhere between 8 to 10, 11 guys on an every night basis, which will give us great depth, allow us to keep our pressure up defensively and our pressure up and our pace up offensively. So, I think there's again, we're continuing to work data. When we come back in the fall, we'll continue to do it all the way into the season. But we get as much as we can that allows us, informs us of, who's playing well, lineups and combinations and things that work well together. Last year was simpler because there wasn't nearly as many combinations or ways to play.
What does it look like when Robbie and Paul are together?
It's been good. I mean, they're learning how to play with each other. Today they were opposite teams, but we're playing them together a ton, and they've been good. It's part of the trial and error of this thing. Figuring out we got to bank reps with those guys on the floor together, and what does that look like? How do you play? I mean, it doesn't. They're different. Paul's so physical. He's a rim runner. You can see the pressure he puts on the rim. He's an offensive rebounder. There's some overlap. We did some last year with Kalu, where you play with 2 guys that are, we call them hubs. People call them triggers, terminals, whatever. Like 2 guys that are trigger men in your offense. And so Paul's that, but Paul's such a great rim runner. He's so fast. I think he opens up space for Robbie, and then it takes some of the playmaking responsibilities off of Robbie, which is going to help him. And so I think it's been good. We're figuring out and being creative right now how we get him into some double drags and different things in transition to make sure we're opened up as much space for them, because with Amari and Quentin and Trey, got a lot of guys who can get downhill and can create and are really good in transition. So how do we maximize the amount of space that those guys are playing with and then get those 2 guys in coherent action?
Have you over the years seen a correlation between how the summer, I guess you didn't have summer sessions for a lot of those years, but the correlation between summer and how the season goes?
Yeah, I think you can get a feel for the summer in terms of like, what the team's going to be like. I think, last summer, I wouldn't have said, I think our ceiling is much higher, and I always say, the way I view things, people outside view them as expectations, but in expectation, the word expect. So when you expect something, it's a given, right? And so the way I view it with the players is possibilities. We talk about possibilities, much more than expectations. And possibilities are, what's possible, right? And so to us, like, we have the possibility to be a great team. We got a lot of work to do and a lot of things to overcome. We're going to need to do things ourselves, and then we're going to need the outside competition, the adversity to take us there. But we have the possibilities of that. I didn't think last year didn't have enough to do that. I feel certainly this year, possibilities, the ceiling is super high for this team. And you could see that, felt that way in 23, 24 with that group. The depth is better with this group. We have better depth than we did in 23, 24 at Indiana State. But, you don't know how the pieces are going to fit together. That's the other piece is as we get to this, it's the summer. Everybody's happy. Roles haven't been established yet. Everybody thinks they're playing 30, 35 minutes. So, and they don't do the math of 15 people playing that many minutes and how many minutes are in a game. So how guys embrace, accept roles, how guys sacrifice for each other, how guys buy in this era where everything's changed. The thing that hasn't changed is what wins, right? Teams that still sacrifice for another, teams that, are connected, teams that are tight-knit, teams that can respond to adversity collectively, like all the stuff, that cliche stuff, that's still what wins, even in the era of, okay, it's the portal or the NIL or whatever. That stuff's changed. What wins hasn't, and so our guys have to be able to do that. We haven't had to, that obstacle won't be placed in front of us until sometime in October. How we clear that, how we clear the obstacles that come, how we deal with adversity, how we respond to stuff. There's a bunch of stuff coming, but I like where we are, and I like the character, I like the talent, and I like certainly the depth of the squad.
Dion, just a cleanup on his knee?
Yeah, just he had a little issue, and it tweaked it, and they went in and looked at it, and there was a piece. It wasn't like a reconstruction or anything like that. It was just a snip. So, we'll be conservative in the summer, but we expect him back fully practicing in the middle of September. Would be kind of his estimated time. And Kellen, took a spill, landed on his back. He's been great all summer. He's been healthy. Took it early last week. He's just back is sore. It was a hard fall on a drive, and so he's been fine though. He's been unbelievable until in terms of health and being there. He hasn't missed anything until the last couple of days, and we'll probably hold him, be cautious with him, let him get through. And when we come back in later August, he'll be fine to go.
So when did he do that?
Maybe Tuesday or Wednesday of last week. So yeah, it was last week, and we've just taken it. Going to be cautious there. He's still sore. It was a good fall, and he obviously jumps high. So, never was an issue for me, but he was up there and landed and just back and glutes and stuff. So he'll be fine. It was just a tumble. We're going to be cautious with him as he gets ready, and he'll be ready to go when we get back in August for sure. He'd probably be ready if it was in season. He could probably go now, but we're gonna, summer we're not going to push it.
And Dion was this morning?
Dion had surgery this morning. Yeah, had surgery this morning.
Coach, with the transfer portal and so many new guys on a team, there can be a lot to learn in the summer, not only on the court, but off the court, new city, new campus, all that stuff. For this break that they get in August, what's your advice to a lot of these guys? Is it just get away? You've been so, dialed in this summer and everything. Is it get away? What's your advice to this little break that these guys get?
Yeah, I think you got to do a little bit of both. I think, you want to use the break to get around your family, do what you do that fills your cup up. Some guys, Robbie, that he loves to golf, so that fills his cup up, so down with his family. They certainly need to stay in the gym and keep working. I think there's a balance there. 3 weeks is a long time to completely disconnect from it. But, we don't want them playing at all, any 5-on-5. The weight room work, staying sharp with their skills. But go enjoy, go fill your cup up, spend time with family, spend time with your loved ones, spend time with your friends. Do the things that allow you to kind of feel rejuvenated, refreshed, because when they come back in August, the next break is a short one. It's over Christmas, and so it's really, go time when they get back in here in August 20th. So whatever they can do to feel good, feel fresh, feel energized, and then it's right to the grind when we get back there in August 20th.
You talk about the two bigs together, but obviously you kind of have two different 4-out looks, one with Robbie, one with Paul. is there a versatility factor there, or is there like a comfortability factor in that you can run the same stuff with either big man, like, or is,
Yeah.
or is it a little bit of both?
I mean, there's subtle nuance. I mean, there's things we do for Robbie that we wouldn't do for Paul, but there's things like, you know, Robbie's ability to space the floor, to shoot threes, to open up the lane is different. Paul's rim running brings a different level. With Paul, we could switch 5. You know, with him, he's good enough in guards like you saw today. He can switch, and Paul can guard 1 through 5. So, you know, there's lineups that we can switch 5. Paul's rebounding, you know, his numbers obviously are higher, both on offense and defense, than Robbie's. Robbie's passing and facilitating. You don't have to change anything, but I mean, you would do, like, you're not going to play to as much where, Robbie handles the ball a ton. You're not going to have Paul handle the ball nearly as much. Paul brings different dynamics to screening and rolling versus Robbie's popping and three-point shooting. So it's nuanced, but certainly playing them alone. That's what you're looking with the data is like with this lineup. What are our strengths and what are our weaknesses? Every lineup gives you tendencies. So you may say, man, we have lineups where we're up 10 with 5 minutes to play, and this lineup here with Paul and switching 5 and is what we need. We're up 10. We want a defensive lineup that can close this, or hey, we're down 10 with 5 minutes to play. What's our best offensive lineup? And there may be very few guys that are in both of those lineups. You may have a great offensive lineup with, guys like Trey Green and Robbie and Brady Dunlap, and your defensive lineup may be more like Kamari and Q and Deion Brown and Paul. And there's just so many different ways to play. And so we have the versatility now. We didn't last year to really look at that data, figure out, and then also what the game's calling for. But they're very different at the 5. But our guys, doesn't change the guys around them. It just changed like what we'd get to when they're at the 5. We may play to different actions when Robbie's at the 5 versus when Paul, just like you would with Kalu at the 5.